Good morning, everybody. If you would, please come on in, take your seats, and we'll get started. Y'all, come on in and take seats, and we'll get started, and we'll close that back door, please. Okay, thank you very much. We're going to begin our meeting today and ask Chair Lady Taylor to open us with a word of prayer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Please bow your head. Good morning, Father. Thank you for the day you've given us, and let us rejoice in it, knowing that you are the Almighty and guiding us through the things we do. We ask for wisdom and discernment as we make important decisions for the people of our state. We ask these things in your Son's name. Amen.
Thank you. Okay, you can see business is picked up. So we're going to go ahead and start hearing from our folks that want to present, from those on the wall over here. And you can see we got a lot of folks, so brevity is going to be a virtue. And we'd ask you to move as quickly as you can. So let's go ahead and get started. Representative Lott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee, for hearing this. This is House Bill 1188. We are fourth down on page 4. If the state of Georgia or any county or municipality employs a peace officer and that peace officer is hired by another agency within 36 months after completing mandated training requirements, then the total expense of training shall be reimbursed by the hiring agency. That is currently in effect today. We are just changing 15 months to 36 months.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions? Okay. Which one is it?
So, do you think, did you consider, or did you hear any testimony, do you have any concerns that a police officer might become even less interested in considering going to a jurisdiction that he or she isn't sure might be a right fit, but now all of a sudden he has to make a 3-year commitment? He or she has to make a 3-year commitment.
So the responsibility falls on the hiring agency. So that's a great question. The law enforcement officer can go, and if they are hired by another agency, the agency actually pays for that training, so they can still move.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. No other questions. Representative, go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman, members. HB 1100, it's on the 3rd page, 7th from the bottom. This is an agency bill for the Department of Revenue Motor Vehicles. This bill does 4 things. It allows the Department of Revenue and the Department of Driver Services to send electronic notices, emails, to customers who opt in to receive emails. If you still wish to receive paper notices, you can. Number 2, it clarifies that all vehicles titled to a government entity will have a plate labeling it's a government vehicle. This does not apply to law enforcement vehicles. Number 3, it allows trailers to be included in the definition of fleet for vehicles that can have their registrations renewed in bulk. Number 4, it provides statutory authority for the Department of Revenue to allow electronic transfers of titles. It sets the foundation for the future of e-titling in Georgia. That's what this bill does. Thank you.
Thank you. We got a question for you, Representative Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You wasn't familiar with this option to have a fleet on your trailers. Was that going to be applicable only to businesses, or would that apply to individuals as well?
So fleet, it allows trailers to be included in the definition of fleet. Fleet is defined as 100 motor vehicles in their fleet. So that's how you qualify to be a fleet. Like U-Haul, Avis, those are the people.
Thank you.
Chair Lady Hughley, you have a question for us?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a point of clarification. So the default is written communication, and the citizen has to do something to receive electronic communications. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Thank you.
It is an opt-in option only.
Okay. No other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator, come on up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for hearing a Senate bill before crossover. I wanted to present Senate Bill 19, which is on page 4, about 2/3 of the way down, and it has to do with passport fees that are collected by Superior Court clerks and probate judges. And all the bill does is require quarterly disclosure to the counties for transparency purposes.
Thank you. Don't see any questions. Thank you very much. Representative, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. House Bill 127, it's the first one down under the modified structure rule. What this bill does, imagine if you have a child with a special need and you go into your IEP meeting. The problem that many of our constituents throughout the state of Georgia are having, if English is not their native language, they're stepping into an IEP meeting to discuss their child with a disability. And so this bill simply says that according to federal law, that's where the funding will come for it. Federal law already gives school systems the money to do interpretation services. This bill gives the state rules and regulations that they can do locally to access the interpretation services. If there are no other questions.
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman Meeks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. House Bill 1235 on page 4, about half the way down, is clarifying legislation for the crane industry that allows them to continue to title and tag the 50-ton plus cranes that move up and down our highways currently for the purpose of construction projects, et cetera. So this just makes them eligible to continue to buy tags and be titled.
No questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Washington.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, I'm here to present House Bill 1073, which is about 1/3 of the way down on page 3 of the blue sheet. This bill amends Code Section 3666-4 by removing a subsection, removing and reserving a subsection. That subsection has provided for longer periods of time and for other things relative to zoning of halfway houses and drug addiction centers, etc. This removes that, and it's a good thing to remove that. We should point out that local governments still have their zoning powers to treat these rezonings like any other. The occupants of these facilities now are members of a protected class by federal law, by fair housing law, and that is the bill. I'll entertain any questions.
Don't see any questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman Terry.
Thank you, Chairman Hatchett. Senate Bill 377 has a little budgetary impact. What we do in 377 is we define something called a qualified residential treatment facility, and by doing it the way we've done it in 377, it allows us to be eligible for something called federal Title 4E funding that will be then allowed to once again flow to our child caring institutions.
No questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Burns.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have Senate Bill 369. It's on page 5, second from the top. This is the semi-quincentennial flag tag bill to commemorate the 250th anniversary of the American Revolution. This tag will be the primary tag in Georgia from 2026 to 2030. I've got great support from the Department of Education. We have a middle school contest to design a logo, and I appreciate the Sons of the American Revolution and the Daughters of the American Revolution and others supporting this bill.
Thank you, sir. Don't see any questions.
Thank you.
We have to turn your mic on if you punch your button there. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I don't want to slow us down, but I was under the impression that at least one senator was mad because they couldn't participate with the kindergartners in designing the flag. Is that true?
The chairman knows what he speaks. Thank you.
Well, we're just trying to keep things working on this side of the building and that side of the building over there. Representative Franklin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is House Bill 907. It's on the second page, about halfway down on your blue sheet. And as a supplement to this, it's LC 394209S. This has been in your committee before, and we wanted to tweak it and fix it a little bit. But it's a motor vehicle bill in regards to funeral processions. And it basically just says that the ongoing traffic on a 2-lane highway needs to pull over until that procession is finished or passed by. And the correction in this was to make sure that we have flashing lights at the end of it so that we know when the procession is over. And that's the bill.
Okay. No questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee. I like his bill, by the way. But today I bring you House Bill 1193. It's brought to us by the Department of Public Safety. This bill is page 4, 5 from the top, and all it's doing is getting rid of the amber light permit that's for decades that the Department of Public Safety has issued to businesses for $2 a piece. Right now in 2024, it's costing the Department of Public Safety about $5.25 due to mail costs, to the processing fees. So basically, this is just getting rid of the amber light permit, but they are still going to be processing the blue light permit and the red light permit.
I've got a question for you. Representative Williams, is that you?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the gentleman,
yes,
will the amber light go away also? Will it go away?
No, sir. In this bill, they have put in the bill who needs to use an amber light permit, and if you're not using it under the list provided by the Department of Public Safety, it could be a misdemeanor if you do not have an amber light permit, like on a towing vehicle, on a log truck, and that's where they were required to still use the amber light.
Okay, no other questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee.
Chairman Leverett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I'm presenting House Bill 1112. It's on the third page, about 5th from the bottom. The bill does a number of things. It removes the Secretary of State from the State Election Board. He's currently a ex officio non-voting member. Provides the State Election Board can hire investigators, moves them administratively to the State Accounting Office, and provides that the Election Board can also investigate the Elections Division, not the Secretary, but the Elections Division. And it also confirms a practice of the board of issuing letters of reprimand and letters of instruction. They've been doing that, and I think it's a great idea. I just would like them to have some statutory authorization for that. And then finally, as it moves the Secretary from the State Election Board, it provides that the Secretary is now one of the people that would be entitled to notice of an emergency rule issued by the board. And that's the gist of the bill, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. We got a question. Representative Whip Park.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What is the reason as to why the Secretary of State's being removed as an ex officio member?
Well, I believe it's part of a sort of a package of trying to make the State Election Board more independent and give it the appearance of independence as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Why was the State Accounting Office chose as the place for this to be administratively attached?
Well, again, part of our goal here is to make the State Election Board more independent, and that is currently where the Ethics Commission is, and we felt like it was, of all the agencies we could think of, the least partisan and subject to any partisan influence of all the ones out there. And given the function of the State Election Board, we thought it made sense since we already got the Ethics Commission there as well.
No other questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the committee.
Chairman Petrie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bring you today H.R. 780. It's the third down on the first page, Mr. Chairman. This is a resolution that would offer an amendment to the Constitution to clarify language that only citizens of this state can vote in elections. Our language in the current Constitution is very similar to that which has been changed in a multitude of states due to similar language being used to allow non-citizens to vote in local elections in a multitude of states in this country. Boston, New York, Washington, D.C., San Francisco, Oakland, a multitude of cities in Maryland and in Vermont now allow non-citizens to vote in local elections. This very simply changes our Constitution to put prohibitive language in there to make it clear that only individuals who are citizens of the United States and residents of Georgia shall be entitled to vote.
Okay. See no questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Stinson, you want to come up front? I know these gentlemen want to let the ladies go first.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the Rules Committee. I present to you House Bill 174. Basically, House Bill 174 is just beginning in the 2024-2025 school year. The Department of Education shall provide all parents and guardians with information regarding vaccinations. It's not a mandate, it's just only providing the information. Just asking for your favorable consideration for House Bill 174.
Okay, see no questions. Thank you. Representative Willis, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I bring you H.R. 918. It's the fourth one down on the first page. It's the Golden Isle Greenway. We want to make an official corridor. We'll make a quick point that this is only about a 25-mile stretch that would make all the way from Macon, Georgia at exit 6 all the way to the coast 4-lane. We believe it'll help us with economic growth and tourism. Brought to me by the commissioners of all the counties, and also the former Speaker of the House, Terry Coleman, had the foresight to make sure the bridges that this part that will have to be 4-lane are already compatible to a 4-lane highway. So we believe this will be good for middle Georgia, and it'll be the shortest route down to the coast.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. No questions. Thank you. Representative, go ahead.
Good morning, and thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I am presenting House Bill 1104, which is on page 3, the 6th from the bottom. And this bill seeks to address mental health risks for student athletes. It's going to aggregate already existing information, mental health information from the departments like Georgia Department of Behavioral Health to be posted, distributed, and reviewed by athletic associations, student athletes, parents, and coaches. The bill will ask athletic associations to consult with the Department of Behavioral Health to post mental health information on its websites, and so that information can be distributed to student athletes, parents, and coaches each year. And it was going to ask coaches to review pre-approved mental health literature and videos. This is currently done with concussion protocols and cardiac arrest awareness, but those are reactionary, and so we're going to ask that mental health is done in the same manner so this can be a proactive measure. This bill takes into account the current physical evaluation forms that are used by our athletic associations, and is not going to change those forms, but it will allow the Department of Behavioral Health in conjunction with the Department of Education to update forms for evaluations if necessary. This language has been approved by the Department of Behavioral Health and the Department of Education, and is fully supported by the Georgia High School Association, American Academy of Pediatrics, and Georgia Mental Health Policy Partnership.
Thank you, sir. Have a question? 32. Knight, Chairman Knight.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Right here, Representative. Thank you. Just a quick question. I mean, you said it was in conjunction with already forms, the physical health forms, and as a father of a young child who's starting in that era of sports and high school sports, is this something you have to pass? Is this something that there's a form and you've got to fill out and meet certain criteria to be deemed?
No, thank you for that question. There's already a pre-physical evaluation form. We're not going to change the form. What we're simply saying is that the form right now is fine, but in the future, if the Department of Education with the athletic associations would like to update that form, then they can. So it's not going to change the current forms that student athletes.
And again, I appreciate the clarification, but again, not changing what is existing on the, I guess, physical health side, but adding to a mental health, I guess, standard or criteria that you must meet. In other words, you've got to be physically healthy to walk out on a field, if you will. Is this something that would correlate to you've got to be mentally somehow fit and to be deemed
No, so
eligible for
no, that's not it at all. The pre-physical evaluation forms already have a few questions that are going to address your mental health. We're not changing that. What this bill is simply doing is asking for our athletic associations, school districts to distribute and post mental health literature, and for our coaches to review pre-approved mental health videos. Again, this is something that's done in other areas such as concussion protocols and cardiac awareness. We're just asking that this be done for mental health.
Chairman Martin.
I think if the gentleman yield for a question, I think I've actually been, is not true, I've been certified as a community coach prior and have fallen under these guidelines. The coaches don't have to pass a test, isn't it true? And what they do is watch these videos on an annual basis to take better care of the student athlete. So it doesn't involve them taking tests. As I understand, the bill doesn't mean a student athlete has to pass the test, but you hope that coaches would then be able to recognize issues that our students may have, and some of that's already going on in school now. Correct?
That's exactly right, yes, thank you.
Thank you. No other questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Fleming.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. I bring to you House Bill 1207. It's on page 4, about halfway down, and it is an elections bill. It's dealing with the ballot proofing process. What it does is simply puts another set of eyes on sample ballots before they are printed and loaded to the machine. So the way it works right now, when you qualify, after qualifying, all information goes to the Secretary of State's office. They build the ballots, and then they send ballots to each county elections director and board of elections, and there is a ballot proofing process in code currently. What it does when the counties finish their ballot proofing process, then the Secretary of State's office will set a 24-hour time frame when ballots will be sent to candidates on the ballot for you to proof your race to make sure your spelling is correct, your district number is correct, your party's correct. If you're an incumbent, you have an I by your name. It's not incumbent that candidates have to do it, but if there are issues, then they respond back to their local election superintendent and remedy if there's any issues on that ballot with their race. Well, that's it. I'll take any questions, Mr. Chairman.
No questions.
Thank
you. Senator, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House colleagues, I bring you Senate Bill 362. It's at the top of your page 5 on your blue sheet. This is governor's bill. Basically, it does a couple of things. For any company wishing to accept certain state economic incentives as of January 1st, 2025, they must agree to a couple of things. Number one, they must agree to protect employee privacy and not disseminate employee personal contact info to union organizers without the employee's consent. And number two, they must allow employees to vote on the issue of union representation in a secret ballot election unless that option is not available under the law or under existing bargaining agreements. The bill only applies to companies receiving incentives and only at the facility for which the incentive is given. It only applies to agreements signed after January 1st, 2025, does not apply to existing incentive agreements, and it only applies for the duration of the performance period under the incentive agreement. This bill does not preempt federal law. There's no state cause of action in it, which conflicts with NLRB rulings. It only targets voluntary actions of companies seeking state incentives, and it does nothing to stop union organizing. Be glad to take any questions, Mr. Chair.
Whip Park has a question for you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is it not true that the code sections listed on lines 14 and 15 include federal dollars? And is it not further true, or could you further explain how this bill does not preempt or otherwise violate the National Labor Relations Act?
Again, this bill applies to companies that are seeking state incentives. It only applies if they agree to it. They agree to accept the incentive. It's a quid pro quo for the acceptance of the incentive from our state taxpayers.
Thanks.
Okay, no other questions. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Representative White, go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, colleagues, Rules Committee members. I'm here to present House Bill 1114. It's on near the bottom of page 3, fourth from the bottom. This is the data analysis for tort reform. This is the governor's legislation request. This will do basically two things. One, we've got lots of qualitative and anecdotal data about the tort reform issue with insurance policies and hardworking Georgians. What this is going to do is get us the actual quantitative data that we need to bifurcate what the cost of normal insurance risk is versus that of what is driving up costs related to tort. So that's what this does. It will ensure that companies will be providing this in a confidential and anonymous manner, and that they will also allow the Department of Insurance and the Department of Administrative Services to collect this data so that we can have informed decision making going forward for future legislation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
I have a question, Representative Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The gentleman, my question is, first, when do you expect to get this data analysis in? And secondly, do you think that it will show that a lot of the reasons for rate increases, natural disasters, and an awful lot of wrecks, and a lot of deer?
I didn't catch all of the gentleman's comments, but I hope that we have a report near the end of this year, and then it would be annually contemplated within the legislation, and they'll be looking at everything that is driving up costs, some of which I believe you referenced in the last one. I couldn't quite hear you, so I apologize.
Okay.
Whip Park.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Under this bill, does the insurance commissioner have complete discretion to determine what insurers are exempt?
So the exemption piece has to do with if you're a life insurance company and you're not providing any property and casualty insurance, then you would not be able to provide information as it relates to that specific data request. So it has to do with its germaneness to the question being asked, not that they could pick and choose different insurance companies or carriers.
Thank you.
No further questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Today I'm here to present House Bill 986. It's up third from the bottom on page 2, election interference with the deepfake, LC number 560131S. It does so by defining a deepfake as materially deceptive media. Specifically, it needs to appear to depict a real individual's speech or conduct that did not occur in reality, and it would have to appear to a reasonable observer to be authentic. Lines 38 through 41 limit the definition of a person such that any individual acting on their own behalf, this bill does not apply to them. And that's just to make sure that we're in alignment with First Amendment rights. Lines 44 through 50 define the offense. Lines 51 through 54 define solicitation of the offense. Lines 61 through 65 define venue. Lines 70 through 77 allow for injunctive relief. Section 2.2 is cleanup language. Section 2.3, lines 93 through 95, specifically states that the state election board, of any findings, they have to release the investigative report. And then Article 5 moves on to a Georgia definition of artificial intelligence system and requires disclosures, and it goes through disclosures and how we'll do that through campaign transparency. With that, I'll open for any questions.
No questions. Thank you.
All right. Thank
Well,
you.
excuse me.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the author of the bill, I just want to, is it not true that you worked very, very hard in a bipartisan fashion, and this bill is well vetted through numerous meetings, and it came out, as I recall, with unanimous support for the measure? Is that not true?
That is true. Thank you for that question. I tell everybody this thing's had more subs than the U.S. Navy. So, but we got it done. This is good language. We've got an agreement on it. So thank you for the question.
Which branch of the service did you serve?
In the Navy.
Thank you for your efforts.
Thank you.
Thank
no
you.
question. Chairman Smith.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Today I bring to you House Bill 267. That's the 9th bill down on the first page of your calendar. Basically, this is a bill that would help provide a pathway to correct where an employer is improperly deducting and withholding wages, for us to be able to bring them in compliance and make sure that they're not cheating a tax man out of what's due.
Good. No questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Morning, Mr. Chairman. I have House Bill 1069 LC 50069 the very last bill on the last page of this morning's bills. This is a department bill that allows the Georgia Forestry Commission to have access to Form PT 283T upon request. Very simple bill. This form, officially titled Report of Timber Sale or Harvest, is a state form provided to county tax assessors after the completion of a timber harvest. One of the roles of the Georgia Forestry Commission is the investigation of timber theft, and they use this form, the PT 283T form, to ensure that timber harvest data reported to county tax assessors, to include revenue and compensation, matches the information provided to the landowner. It's more of a checks and balances sheet and form process. Normally, this form, the PT 283T, is only disclosed to local tax officials, so the Forestry Commission has to retrieve the data through normally a subpoena or a court order. However, local tax assessors have indicated that an official request by the Forestry Commission would certainly streamline this process and make it much more efficient. We've spoken with ACCG, we've spoken with the assessors, we've spoken with the Georgia Forestry Association. They're okay with it. So again, a department bill streamlines the timber investigation process, and interested parties are okay with it. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Representative. Okay, I don't see any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here to speak to House Bill 579 today. It's at the bottom of the first page. House Bill 579 makes a few changes to the Georgia Special Needs Scholarship Program. This is not an expansion of the program. It will provide scholarship estimates and actual amounts in a more timely manner. It gives updates on how funds are remitted to schools. It has clarifying language about how the appeals process around scholarship amounts works. And it provides even more information into the program about the students who participate and on the types of conditions participating schools are able to serve. This bill was passed unanimously in subcommittee and in committee, and I would appreciate your consideration.
Right. No questions. Thank you. Representative Monahan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I bring to you House Bill 934, LC 48-1202S. It is halfway down the second page on your blue sheet. This allows for electronic agreements for self-storage facilities, as well as gives a remedy to folks who operate self-storage facilities for things other than non-payment.
Okay. No questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jim Purple.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've got two bills, if I may. The first is on top page 3. The very top on page 3, it's HP 1001. Several weeks ago, I went home because of the storms in South Georgia, check on the farm, check on my wife. I should have said, to check on my wife and check on my farm. So the next morning,
Make sure you get the order correct.
please, I hope she's not watching today. About halfway home the next morning, I'm coming up for session, stopped to get gas, realized I'd left my billfold in my work breeches, and we've all done that. Maybe not work breeches, but I had a credit card on my phone. I also have my driver's license on my phone. I, along with about 300,000 other Georgians, have an electronic driver's license issued by DDS. I can actually go to Hartsfield, get on an airplane, go through TSA with the only identification being the electronic Georgia driver's license. This bill simply adds shall from may to take the ambiguity out of the law that the display of state-issued digital driver's license fulfills the state requirement to have a copy of your driver's license in your immediate possession. You're not compelled to give a digital license if you choose a physical license. You have also not consented to a search of your device if you display it. So it's a pretty simple bill, but thank you.
Don't see any questions. You have
So
another?
also on page 4, sixth one down, HB 1199. I don't really have a good story about this one, but since 1970, the state auditor has conducted a monthly report from every department, agency, authority, and public corporation in the state on all architectural and engineering firms that do business with the state of Georgia using a 36-month time lag. Probably since 1970, no one has read this 225-page report monthly. This bill merely seeks to provide efficiencies in government by doing it annually, posting on the website, as part of the Transparency in Government Act. This is just limited government. It's a good bill.
No questions.
Thank you.
Sir. Senator Walker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. I bring to you toward the bottom of page 4, Senate Bill 110, the Blue Act. This is a bill that we worked on last year and it got carried over. The only changes we made from last year, you'll see it's a substitute, is we changed the effective date from 2024 to 2025 and the sunset from 28 to 29. This is a voluntary checkoff on your vehicle registration to allow citizens of Georgia to contribute $5 to the Back the Blue Fund, which would support our sheriff deputies throughout the state. It passed unanimously out of your Motor Vehicles Committee last year and this year, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Don't see any questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Do we have some committee members? Yep. Which one? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. I present to you House Bill 1172. It's on page 4, second from the top. 1172 is a cleanup bill with regard to Senate Bill 115 we passed last year. It removes language, particularly the public trust doctrine language, and it clarifies what the rights of folks in the state of Georgia have when they're on a navigable waterway. And that's what the bill does, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. If there are any questions, raise your hand. Yeah. Don't see any questions. Okay. Representative Taylor.
Thank you. I just had a question. Does this indicate in our waterways where people can fish from and hunt from, and they have passage through rivers, creeks? What all does it include?
It includes navigable waterways. It says that you have the right to pass, hunt, and fish. That's what the current state of the law is. We're not changing that as to navigable waterways.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you. Chairman Ballinger, you had a question? Oh. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to bring to the committee's attention House Bill 924. Basically, it's insurance discriminating against certain healthcare facilities and providers in connection with administration of provider-administered drugs. It basically prohibits public insurers from making white bagging, forcing patients to engage in the practice known as white bagging, and it ensures patient protection and allows them to have the medicine that their doctor intended. That's the basis of the bill.
Okay, any questions? Don't see any questions, thank you. Chairman Cooper, you have a question? Bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have two, if I may. On the bottom of page 3, House Bill 1125, it's hard to believe that in 2024, we still have companies paying our disabled people 22 cents an hour. This is a phase out of this program. It does not, they already get money from the feds and the state to run their programs, and this would phase it out, and the governor had set up a task force to do this. Has nothing to do with private companies that hire the disabled. The other bill I have is 10
Wait just a minute, we got a question on that. Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me, go ahead.
Okay. The other bill is up on the middle of that page. It's House Bill 1077. Thought there was one like this coming from the Senate, but it seems not to be. It sets up a grant. Part of our continuing to try to help mental health patients in this state. One of the biggest factors is that we have nobody to take care of them. We don't have enough psychologists, psychiatrists, social workers, and so forth. This sets up a grant program that would help pay for schooling for people going into those areas. And also, it sets up an incentive program to get people in those areas to work and take Medicaid patients, which are often found in areas that most desperately need qualified people to help. That's it.
Okay.
I'll answer questions.
Don't see any questions. Thank you. Chairman Hawkins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to ask for HB 1170. This is a bill that requires Narcan in government buildings that also have an AED, so they must have an AED for this bill to apply to them. It does not include any universities or other establishments of learning. It also speaks to the training. It speaks to the funding of grants, gifts, and contracts, and it also speaks to the liability exemption under Good Faith Act.
Okay. Don't see any questions. Chairman Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I bring you House Bill 1081. It's on page 3, one halfway down. It is known as the Georgia Preeclampsia Biomarker Testing Act. Preeclampsia is a serious blood condition that develops during pregnancy. People with preeclampsia often have high blood pressure. The preeclampsia typically develops after the 20th week, and it's among the top 2 to 3 causes of why women die. The FDA just approved this last summer. It will predict who can have it. It's been the standard of care in Europe for decades, and the obstetricians over there say they couldn't work without it. The accuracy rate to rule out this condition is 96%, and in African American and black women, it's 99%. Be happy to answer any questions.
Don't see any questions. Chairman Newton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I bring you House Bill 971. It's on the last page under structured rule, the second one down. House Bill 971 supports Georgians who, due to increasing crime and violence, have purchased or are considering purchasing a firearm to better defend themselves, their children, and their families against criminal violence, and who desire to do that in a responsible and secure manner. This legislation allows Georgians to use a portion of their state tax obligation as a tax credit of up to $300 for 2 things: to obtain firearm training through an in-person firearm safe handling instructional course, and to purchase a firearm safe storage device. It allows them to keep the firearm both readily available but also secure from children, and especially from the criminal theft, which is fueling much of the criminal gang-related shootings we hear about so frequently.
Okay. Don't see any questions. Chairman Powell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I bring to you this morning a couple of bills. House Bill 993. This would provide for the offense of grooming of a minor. This is a situation that arose up in our part of the world that It's a pattern of sexual predators that use internet or computers or whatever to start working on young children, so that when they reach a certain age, then they can engage in an illegal activity with them. Has a self-definition section, but basically it says that a person over the age of 18 and not less than 48 months or older, then the alleged victim commits the offense of grooming of a minor when such person exhibits a pattern of activity, knowingly and intentionally performs an act in a person or through a third party that causes by the electronic devices, computers, social media, to persuade, induce, entice, or coerce a minor to engage in a sexual offense. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank some folks on this, the two chairmen of the Judiciary and the chair lady of Juvie Justice and the Prosecuting Attorneys Council. It's been a very difficult situation to define this type of activity, but it would be a good bill as far as trying to stop these folks who are using this grooming tactics to entice minors for sexual activity.
Don't see any questions.
Second bill, brought this the other day, House Bill 994. This basically is to preserve the marine industry that leases boats in the state. Because of vicarious liability, Georgia is one of 3 states, and a lot of these folks are actually being put out of business. So this basically returns it that any tort would be the tort would be on the driver of the boat if they're responsible for an accident.
Okay. Don't see any questions.
Thank you.
Chair Lady Dempsey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Third from the top on page 4, House Bill 1183, to increase awareness of type 1 and type 2 diabetes. It amends the current 6 through 12 education code, adding that if a school gives out health information, that they should include in it information to parents or guardians on type 1 and type 2 diabetes. These are free, downloadable for each and every school. It is just simply to help stem the tide of diabetes.
Okay. Don't see any questions. Jim Blunt, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I bring to you House Bill 1204. It's on page 4, about halfway down under modified structure. This bill provides insurance coverage for the harvesting and storage of eggs and sperm for people who have been diagnosed with cancer, lupus, and sickle cell. The reason for this is that when they receive that treatment, that destroys their reproductive systems and makes it possible for them to have the harvesting done prior to the treatment and perhaps give them a little hope for being able to have children in the future. That's the bill.
Don't see any questions. Thank you. Okay, have we gotten everybody that's a member of the committee? I think we have. Thank you. Okay, a little housekeeping here before we set the calendar. I want to recommit House Resolution 1066 back to the special rules. Do we have a motion? Any opposed? Okay, it's back to special rules. Now, what we're going to do now is set the calendar for day 24. So this, under the modified structure, House Bill 896. Do I hear a move? Second. Any opposition? It's on. House Bill 904. Have a move. Second. Any opposition? Okay, it's on. House Bill 1054. Have a move and second. Any opposition? It's on. House Bill 1072. Move and second. Any opposition? Okay, it's on. House Bill 1077. Move and second. Any opposition? It's on. Recognize Vice Chair Ballinger for a motion, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Pursuant to Room 33.3, I move that this limit debate on all measures before the floor be limited to a period of 1 hour, time to be divided at the discretion of the chair.
Have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. Have a second? Is there opposition? Okay. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, same sign. It passes. Even though you voted twice, it passes. Okay. Let me recap for you just so you'll be sure tomorrow. House Bill 896, House Bill 904, House Bill 1054, House Bill 1072, House Bill 1077. Thank you very much. We adjourn.